Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, welcome back. It's once again our time together. It's that time of the week. That's right. And, you know, just out here having a little bullseye flake and a pipe maker branded billiard with the rough cut. Yeah, see that? Why does it want to focus and center on this thing? There it is. I have to hide my face. It wants to focus on my face. I don't know why. It's not that great. Anyways. Yeah, it's not bad. Circa 1950s, I guess. I like estate pipes. They have a story to tell. I clean them up so they're hygienic to use. But, yeah, just can't beat the old quality, really. I guess that's why we're all kind of here, is for that, right? Anyway. Burning Special guy. I've shared it before, but I'll share it again because I think some of you mugs haven't paid attention. That's right. This is a first generation little wizard. Okay. I've had some questions that I've had to answer on the tubular group about first generation versus later generation little wizards. Now, what is it about the first generation that makes it so special or different than later runs? Simple. Later runs have the crease, as well as the beads. This one has just the little beaded reinforcements in the air tube, no crease. Okay. Also the slotted vents on the top of the baffle. This is a baffle. This is your crown. This is your chimney. This is your chimney. Okay. So you the little slots there, those little vented slots below the crown slots, I guess, or the chimney slots. Yeah. That's a hallmark of a first generation. Also, the bail lock looks like this. See? Okay. Also has a rising cone. See how the cone rises and there's the burner? Kind of like an imbury? Yeah. This is your early version. And also, of course, your patent dates will be here on the my right, your left air tube. That's right. Or your right, my left. That's it. But anyways, that's your indication of a earlier generation or first generation little wizard. So make a note of it. I don't want to answer this question ever again. Get it? I'm only kidding, of course. I'm always happy to help. Sometimes. Okay, well, fine. You know me. I'm a softie. Right? Yeah. Well, anyhow. This is a bad box. It is. Anyway, it's interesting, you know. There's, before I get into what I want to share today, you know, I'm out here a lot. I spend a lot of time out here in the garage amongst my souvenirs. And I reflect on things. I do. And I wonder sometimes what it is about all this vintage antique stuff that draws me in. That I've formed a lifestyle around it. It's become my identity, if you will. Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a formal answer, but I have some ideas. Well, many have known or have noticed here that we're kind of a nostalgia-driven channel. We reflect on things of yesterday with a fondness and a warmth for days gone by. And sadly, we do have a little bit of a rose tint to our spectacles. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Were things really better when we were children, or when our parents were young, or whatever the era? Maybe. Guess that depends on who you were. Your status, your income, your place in life, your lot in life. And, well, certain diseases were definitely more prominent. We didn't have nearly as many cures for things then as we do now, but it's an interesting thing. It's a fact about humankind. They get nostalgic. They think about the past and kind of reflect on it with a fondness. And sometimes a longing for days that have gone by. You know, I think about my childhood, and I had some great memories. I have some great memories about my childhood. Yep. Sure do. There's also things that I don't care to recall or remember as well as I maybe should. But today, this generation, this world, we get tired of a lot of things because it's just so different. It is. Quite different from what a lot of us experienced back 20, 30, 40 years ago. You know. The advancement of technology. Who remembers getting the internet for the first time? I know I do. Dial-up. Still, that was amazing. That was a breakthrough thing. And I remember the ushering in of social media in the early 2000s. MySpace. Friendster. Music sharing databases like Napster and stuff like that. They got in trouble. But anyways, I watch TV late at night, and I watch a lot of content on YouTube. I've mentioned this before. I watch a lot of YouTube, predominantly YouTube, because there's a little bit of everything for everybody. There's something there for everyone. And late at night, at this point in my life, what I find great comfort in is TV shows that I grew up with. Yeah. I'll put on some reruns of like Three's Company or All in the Family, maybe Silver Spoons or Frasier, and Cheers, And it's amazing to revisit those shows that are 30 plus years old. And I find a comfort in that because it takes me back to a time when, the world was new and my youth was intact and things looked hopeful and exciting, It's true. And actually, I get a lot more of the jokes now that I'm an adult than I was when I was a kid. How that works, yeah. But nostalgia is an interesting thing. It can be healthy. It can also be unhealthy. We can get stuck in a rut where we constantly are bitter about our environment around us and the world that we've created and wishing that it was the way it was when we were young. I've fallen prey to that myself. I'll be honest. I've felt that way many times. But I have to remember, Can't go back. Can't rewind everything. We can't make the whole world as it was at that time, in that moment when we were young. As much as we want to. Just can't. And the younger generations just don't understand what things were like then. Because they weren't there. It's not their fault. They have a hard time understanding what a thing. And they have their own ideas or interpretations of what those decades were. In fact, 1970s and 80s and even 1990s culture is popular with the younger generations. And I get a little salty because, not because I don't want them to explore and enjoy that time, but they're doing it wrong. I was there. I know what it was like. I know what I experienced. I know what I saw. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Other generations feel the same way. They get that way. They do. Never mind. 3 strikes and you're out. Yeah. It's interesting. Anyway. I sit out here and I enjoy one of these. I look at the stuff that I've accumulated since I was very young. Mm-hmm. And I always come back to this one. That's right. Numero uno. My first. Technically not my first, but it's the first one that I bought with my own money. That's right. This little winged wheel. Special. Mm-hmm. It is. Why is it special? Because I was 9 years old when I bought it. Yeah. Yeah. And why is that special? What 9-year-old do you know wants a tubular lantern to buy it with their own money they got for birthday, and grandma's birthday card, Yeah. I was driven. And at a very young age, very young age, I was very driven to acquire this. And why this? Well, this is kind of funny. Because a friend of ours, their mother, was at an estate sale or a yard sale and found 2 of these. But they were lamps. They were actually made to be lamps. And what I mean by that is that they were on a brass or metal tube that went through the entire thing and looped around to a wooden board, like a circular, what's the word I'm looking for? It was an oval piece of wood that was beveled. That's the word, beveled. It was decorative, okay? And had this metal connected to it, and you could hang it on the wall, and the tube came up, and it had a light switch, and a light socket, and a shade. So it was a decorative wall sconce for a kid's room with one of these lanterns. And she had 2 of them. So my brother and I, we both got one. And I was like, that is so cool, because our friend's mom knew that I liked lanterns. So she's like, oh, Rob would like those, and Dan and Rob should have those. So she got them. Well, the funny thing is, it was one of these. That was the lantern, as I just said, that was part of this decorative sconce. There's a difference there. The lantern that was on the sconce was red. And I wanted a red one. But I wanted a real one that I could actually burn. Yeah. So, I go to the antique store. Now, Monrovia West Antiques used to be located on Foothill Boulevard, just west of Monterey in Monrovia here. just before 5th Avenue. It was just near the border of Monrovia and Arcadia. Now the structure, it still stands, but it's been highly modified and changed since 2005. But Monrovia West originally occupied what was, I believe, the old Studebaker dealership from the 1930s and 40s. Yeah. And when I was a little younger, it was Sunshine Produce. And it was a kind of a health food minded grocery store, you know. So it was actually pretty cool. I remember the way it was when it was Sunshine Produce. Oh my gosh, can I close my eyes now and picture it? I can even smell the produce section. I can envision the butcher at the meat counter. He was wearing a white shirt and a white apron with a paper overseas cap, like the old butchers did. And this was in the early 80s. Yeah. I remember the checkout stand with the rotating, disc and everything. Hey, good. And, you put it here and then they would send it over to the cashier, Ah, man, those were old too. Those were probably from the 50s or 60s. Had the little light up number above the cash register. And, oh my gosh. Yeah, and the clerks or the cashiers would wear like a kind of a earth tone outfit with an apron. It's just typical classic 80s grocery store stuff, right? But it was a neat store. Had a lot of different stuff in there, but it was still an old building, and you could see everything the way it was when it was a car dealership. They didn't update or change anything. But Sunshine Produce, it went away. It didn't make the money that they were hoping to make. It was not as successful as a regular mainstream grocery store because in 87, no, I take that back, 86, Monrovia, I hate this thing. I told you this was a bad box. Come on. I'm going to stick till it actually works. But in 86, Monrovia got its major grocery store. We used to have an A&P back in the old days, but we got a Vaughn's Pavilions, which was a company under the umbrella of Safeway. Yeah. It is now. Safeway owns a lot of those stores, and they even bought out Albertsons. But however, that's kind of what I would say killed Sunshine, is because people could go to Vaughn's and get everything pretty much the same price. It was bigger selection and more convenient, I guess. And Sunshine Pros went gone. It's sad. It is. It was a very quaint, old-fashioned grocery store experience. I'm glad I have my memory intact, or that I have such an acute memory, because I can remember so much details about it. And even though I was just a kid. Yeah. But I'm going somewhere with this, so hang tight. But comes an antique store. Sunshine closes, and then it's vacant for a little bit of time. And then all of a sudden, a big old sign, grand opening, Monrovia West Antiques. Wow. Okay. That's fantastic. I had never been in an antique store. I've been to many museums. I've been on field trips, Monrovia Canyon. Yeah. Saw a lot of cool artifacts in the visitor center and stuff like that pertaining to the mining history. What little there is in Monrovia, but we do have some gold rush mining history here in town. It's not substantial, but it is here. Anyway, I see this place open, and I convinced my parents to take me to Monrovia West. And they're like, well, what are you looking for? I want a lantern. I want to find an old lantern. That's what I want. I'd go to Disneyland and go to, Frontierland and ride, Big Thunder Mountain. And I'd see all the lanterns decorating that ride, that attraction. And I was like, I want one like that. I want an Old West lantern. So I was like, well, I'll go to an antique store. That's what you do, right? Well, I suppose. But they took me. I was walking around with my brother, and we're looking at stuff. And, I was just a kid, but I understood, don't touch. Early on, I had that ingrained in me. I don't know if it was my grandparents or my parents or whatever, but I just felt that the older generation knew that kids were going to destroy antiques. But I had kept my hands in my pockets or behind me, and I was looking around. I was very respectful. But then I saw this, and I was like, this looks like the one that I want. That actually works on kerosene, and that's not got a rod through it with a light bulb. Yeah. Right? Now, just FYI, the sconces that we were given were actually designed that way by Winged Wheel. The burner cone had a circular hole in it to accommodate the rod for the wire. They were designed that way. They weren't ever made to be burned as these were. So, that was probably from the 70s, Yeah. Anyway. That's what it was. Rustic decorations. They were big in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. So, I wanted this lantern, and it was $4.50. Yeah, $4.50 in 1987. I was 9 years old. And I had $5 on me. I showed it to my folks. Says, I want to buy this. Well, you have money? Yeah, I got $5. Oh, okay. So they helped me out with tax. And I remember bringing this thing up to the counter. And there was this lady. It was this nice lady, this older lady, kind of blondish white hair. And she took my money and was very sweet and very charmed to see a young boy buying at an antique store. And so I got my prize. I took it home and I was fascinated. I was like, oh my gosh, I got this one. But there was also a little bit of dissatisfaction because it wasn't red. It was yellow. Yellow. Dissatisfaction because of the color. Well, you can say, well, just paint it red. Big deal. No. I wanted it original red. I wanted it to have the original paint. I wanted it just to be red and not yellow. Now you could paint it and make it red and everything's great, right? No, it's not right because, well, eventually I did find a red one. Yeah, I did. In the early 2000s, I bought it for $5 at an antique store that was going out of business in Pomona. And I had it for a while. And then I sold it. I was like, well, this doesn't matter anymore. This is the very first one I ever bought. And this is the one to keep. Yeah. It's the one to keep. So when I was a kid, I would take a flashlight and shine it behind it, so when I would look at it head on, it would look like it was, lit. I pretended. And my dad never got a wick for it, never fueled it with kerosene, even though I had lanterns I was burning by that age. I had a Chinese cold blast from a, Army Navy surplus store. And it was something I took on camp trips. And I used it. Yeah. So, but this one would take a much smaller wick than I was accustomed to, and I just would, the lantern I had a wick, and I didn't have any other wicks. I was just a kid. I just used what the lantern came with. And, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I never fired this lantern. I never did. I never did. I think tonight is the night. I think tonight is the night to fire this up for the first time ever. I did find a wick. It's a comet-sized wick, and it fits just right. And it's brand new inside. This thing it's burned. It's been burned. There's some discolorization a little bit. It's been fired before. Yeah, it's not brand new. Yeah, there's a little bit of discoloration there. But anyways, let's christen this, shall we? Let's burn this guy for the first time in probably 45 years. Just need a little bit. Nothing too great. Nothing too much. Well, Rob, how do you know it's going to hold fuel? Well, I just know. I've had it for 38 years. You just know it's going to hold fuel because it's so clean. Now, the winged wheel was made in Japan. And coming along my tutelage, my education in lanterns, I've realized that they made these in all colors with matching colored globes. This would have had a yellow amber globe. The red would have had a red globe. The green one had a green globe. And so forth. They had even a purple one. And a blue one. They had like a rainbow color scheme for these little winged wheels from Japan. I want to say it's made in Japan. Yeah, Japan. It says Japan on it. So, anyways. We got fuel in there. So, we'll just let that kind of soak it up for a little bit. We got the wick in there. Yeah, there's a wick in there. It'll be ready to go in a minute. There we go. And I'll get this struck up once again. But yeah, we're going to light this for the very first time. Come on. There you go. Should we try it now? I think so. Yeah. There it is. Is that nice? I waited so long for this. It's amazing. First time I ever lit it. I've owned it for almost 40 years. It's amazing. It is amazing. Over there. Why did you wait so long to light that, Rob? That's fun. Well, look around. A lot of distractions. Yeah. I came to a crossroads just now. I don't know if you knew it. I almost refrained. I almost didn't put fuel in it because, well, I never burned it. And I thought, why should I change now? It's been almost 40 years since I bought this lantern. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, why change it? I almost stopped. But I says, you know what? Go on. You've earned it. It's earned it. Light it. Enjoy it. It was designed to do that. And it did that at some point in time in its history. It's not a brand new lantern. It's definitely not that. It's been well cared for. It's not beat up, really, but, you know. It's cute. Yeah. Turn that flame down a little bit. I don't want to crack the glass. Anyways, it's cool. It is. Actually, I think I did. Yeah. There's a little crack in it. That's interesting. It's over there and not on this side because the flame is a little higher on this side. I wonder why that is. Huh. Well, it's a very small crack, and I don't intend on burning this a lot. But, you know, here it is. I lit it. No regrets. I wanted to do this ever since I got it, when I was 9 years old. There we go. And that glass, I've never cleaned. I've never touched it. It was cleaner when I was a kid, and it just got foggy like that over 38 years. You know? So, you know what I'm going to say, right? Well, maybe so. But you know, when we find a lantern with a dirty globe, I'm not saying you shouldn't do what you please or shouldn't clean it. But take a pause for a second and understand that the way the globe looks took a long time to get that way. Yeah. That's right. So, that being said, that's why I kind of like things the way they are sometimes and enjoy it. And see the history. Yeah. Dirty globe or not. Yep. But I like it. It has a nice aesthetic to it. Well, friends, you saw here first. I lit my very first tubular lantern that I ever bought when I was 9 years old. Right here in front of you guys. That's right. I'm glad you guys were with me to do this. Yeah. I felt it was only fitting. Right. Indeed. Well, thanks again for your subscriptions, for your involvement in the channel, your comments, and your likes, all that. Grateful for that. Appreciate it. It's how the channel gets better growth. So please, definitely comment and like and all that stuff. I know people get tired of hearing all that from us YouTubers, but it's true. I want to change the algorithms a little bit, and you guys have the power, not me. This is true. Do you hear that? Ice cream truck? That's after 5 o'clock on a Monday. Interesting. Anyway. Thanks again, y'all. I appreciate you. And we'll come back at you next week with a new video. And we'll have something different to share. And we might be revisiting some lanterns I did several years ago. But a lot of my new subscribers haven't seen. So we're going to make some recent content with some stuff I haven't shared since I got the newer camera, which was still now, 3 years ago. So the nice camera I have now, I didn't have when I started the channel. So I might reintroduce some of the stuff I've shared before the nicer format that I have now. So stick around, and we'll keep it coming at you. And if you have an idea of maybe what you'd like to see, just leave a comment and I'll consider it and see what I can do for you. Okay? Okay. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Sit, Boo Boo, sit. Good dog.